Hey everyone, welcome to the Rebuild podcast. I am so excited to be here with Andrea from Intentional Healing and Wellness. She is going to share a dynamic story. I don't even want to tease this and give you all any of the tidbits because you have to hear her tell you about how she got to be where she is. I have known Andrea for years and she's just a dynamic person, and there's sometimes when I'm kind of scared to do something and I hear her in my head saying a particular phrase. So when they say she lives rent free, she actually does live rent free in my head. So Andrea, welcome to the Rebuild.
Thank you. Thank you, Tiffany. I am so excited to be here with you today for this conversation. I can't wait to see where we go and what we're going to dive into, but I'm really grateful and maybe I could stop paying you some rent.
That would be awesome. Now, listen, we'll talk about it. We'll talk about the things. We'll talk about the things. But before we go any further, introduce yourselves. Tell this audience, tell this community who you are. Give us a little bit about you.
Absolutely. So, hi, everybody. My name is Andrea Mancuso. I am the founder of Intentional Healing and Wellness, which is a coaching and consulting business. I am a licensed mental health counselor and facilitator, speaker, former school psychologist of 14 years, and really excited to be out here, with leadership coaching and focusing on emotional intelligence work. So that's a bit about me and what I'm up to these days.
So this is an aside because this we're talking, and so the conversation is going that
Yeah.
way. But tell us a little bit about being the first.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's so interesting. So, I would say for college, entrepreneurship, like I have two older brothers, and my brother, the middle one, has a business for himself. So he really kind of paved the way in terms of that case. But with college, yeah, I mean, I was in a cat. This is another fun story. I was so bad when I was younger. Like, people in my life who know me now, if they happen to be around all the way back then, they're like, wow, like you really turned it around.
Mhm.
But I was so bad, you all. I was like, middle school, I was never there. I don't even know like how I passed. It's a miracle, basically. 'Cause it was just a time. Yeah, it's
Oh my
crazy.
gosh, I can't believe that.
Was never Tiffany, middle school, I was never there. I was literally, my parents worked, like, as you said, working, so they were always gone. I was, like, either in my house with friends coming over and we were, like, cutting or whatever, or I would go to school for one period and, like, do the homeroom
I
sign-in.
can't believe that.
And, also too, I was like, when the weather was nice, we were on the train going to Coney Island and going to the beach and doing all the things, and it was just crazy, like, never went to school. Now, it was 1990 in
Mhm,
Brooklyn,
mhm.
1992. There was so much going on at that time in terms of the world and New York City
Yeah.
and the grit and the crime and the everything. Like, so I didn't want to be in school. There was always fights. There was always violence. There was like, I witnessed so much violence. I didn't realize it then. I realize it now, like how much it impacted me in terms of like my nervous system and everything. But all of that was going on. So the fact that I ended up going to, they put me in a Catholic school because they were like, all right, we're going to try for high school. We're going to try to like get her a little bit more together here. The fact that I ended up going to high school and then making the decision to go to college, I think would, really surprised.
I didn't
Um,
know this.
yeah, pleasant way. It surprised. I wouldn't say my parents because, my mom and dad were both working. My mom was working really, really hard and was always like, at the job. My dad was the one that when I got into trouble, I called. And so he was the parent who like came up to school and was like, don't tell your mother, you're going to be in trouble. So they weren't surprised that I ended up getting it together because, like, I think a lot of the things that I did that was so, bad, like my mom didn't even know about. But they were working hard to like ensure that I was the first.
Mm.
They were really pouring into like they paid for a Catholic school education for high school because, again, high schools in Brooklyn at the time were just like not it. And I think they knew if she goes, it's going to wind up being that she's not really going. And so, they really they were scrounging pennies, together to make this happen. And when I went to high school, that's when conversation started about like, well, are you thinking about college and all? And nobody did it, so we didn't know much about, the process. So I remember starting to actually come towards the end of high school. And yeah, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do this. It feels like the next thing to do. And even though I had no idea about what was involved and what was the story, they were saying like, okay, let's like figure this out. Now at the time, again, still in Brooklyn, St. Francis College was a small like Franciscan, Catholic college that was on Remsen Street in downtown Brooklyn. It was a small school. And so because of the fact that this was like a new thing for all of us, and I started to entertain like, well, maybe I'll go to sort of like a Brooklyn college or something that was more campus based. And I think at the time they were just like, let's put you someplace where it's small and we can like have this feel a little comfortable.
Yeah,
And so, yeah, I was like, okay, let's do it. So
that's amazing.
I was thankfully, and I always say I'm so grateful and I thank my lucky stars for the fact that I was smart. I was able to have good relationship with teachers and like, I was always kind of likable and would laugh and would talk with them. And so I think that even when I was on my wild days and was like sort of rearing off, they would sort of say, Andrea, come on. And then I would show up, do the tests, get it together. So I was always able to like pull it off.
Wow.
But, yeah, it's amazing that I ended up choosing that path because there was a time when it could have really, really went left.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, it's what's interesting, it's a smaller college. I have ties to St. Francis because my godfather, he's actually my cousin, but my godfather went there and he talks about his experience there. He went there in the late 70s. And he talks about his experience there and how much he loved it. He always talks about a particular teacher that he had and, how the teacher, changed his life. The teacher,
I
just
love that.
really, really changed the professor just really changed his life. And what was interesting is that subsequently that man went on to be the head of the school that I ended up going to, which was New York University. And
Wow.
so it's so interesting. And yeah, it's a city school, right? Like there are corporate buildings all around. There's lots of, but I've heard just such great things. So I love that, like you're continuing what they're saying that
Yeah.
it was a great
Yeah,
experience.
it was a special experience, and I'm grateful that I listened because I was really trying to go someplace that was campus based because I was like, I'm gonna do this college thing. I knew for sure that we didn't have money for me to like go away, and that was never gonna be a thing. I also knew my dad was sick. Excuse me. So my dad ended up passing away when I was a sophomore in college. And I knew when I was entering in as a freshman that he was sick. Like he was already starting to experience like different, kind of visits to the hospital and blah, blah, blah. So I knew I didn't want to go far, but I'm so grateful when I look back. I remember putting up a fight and saying, like, no, but I want to go to like where it feels like it's like a college, because St. Francis was just a random building on
Mhm.
Remsen Street. It didn't feel like a college. It
Yeah.
just looked like a regular city building. And, they were, that was, I have to say, that was one thing that they gave in to me a lot. I pushed limits a lot. This was the one thing that they were like, we're not caving, and I'm grateful because I think it was that experience and to, your family members' experience, like it was so personal and they knew your name and it was like really, it felt like a very private school that I felt like I wasn't just a number or like a random. And I think at that time I needed that,
Yeah.
I needed that personalization and I needed like the professors to be able to say to me, what's going to come next? Like because I never, like I told you, never knew about graduate school.
Yeah.
And it was there where professors started to say, like, Andrea, have you ever thought about like what's, you know, you're bright and you're enjoying and that, and I was like, I didn't even know grad school was a thing, you know? So it was really amazing in that way to be the first because, you know, going through college and then graduating and after my father passing away and, you know, making a promise to him that I would keep going. And I didn't know what that meant, Tiffany, at the time. Yeah, at the time, like I remember him coming, he would often like walk past his bedroom. They had to walk, you know, it was like I lived in a corner building and so their bedroom was all the way at the end. It's actually the building that I live in now in Brooklyn. And my bedroom was like on the way. And he would always do the, you know, the knock, I don't know if you could hear this, but it was like the,
Yeah.
all right. And I would knock back
Right.
with
Right.
this last particular conversation that we had before he was hospitalized for the final time. He said, you know, he came in and he was like, look, I'm not gonna be here for much longer. And, you know, we knew that it was coming down to the end. And he was like, I want you to promise me that you're gonna keep going. And he knew like he was we were the, you know, dynamic duo. And I didn't know what I was promising at the time. But I was like, you know, I promise. And he was like, no, like you're gonna be tempted to stop. You know, this is not gonna be easy. And I was like, I promise, I promise. We were both crying. And I was like, I promise I'm gonna keep going. And honestly, I do believe that is what planted seeds for grad school. Like I had no clue about it at that time, but I just knew that I had made a promise and I was gonna keep going. And I'm confident that he would be proud. And, you know, in this moment too, like I've kept going in lots of different ways. And, you know, I just want to invite your listeners, like all of the struggles that you go through, all of the things that happen, the rebuilds, the pick yourself up by the bootstraps, you know, like keep going. This journey's so precious. It's so quick, right? And there's so much that we get to experience but we have to make that decision, and I know it's, like, so hard. At times, I was like, you know, like, you know, life gets so hard, but gotta do it, gotta keep going.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that story. And your connection to your dad is beautiful to witness even now. I think about my own dad, actually.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
do if we're thinking about healing and we're thinking about wellness and we're thinking about being intentional about it, because I think that's so key,
yeah.
and this idea around keep going. I wonder what patterns or what are you seeing with your clients in regard to their healing and wellness?
I love this question. So, what I'm seeing a lot these days is mental health is in crisis. And I am seeing a lot of people acting as if it's not, trying to avoid
Oof,
doing the work
oof,
that's needed. Yeah. I see a lot of, you know, it's no mistake. I attract a lot of clients that, you know, I see a lot of myself in, which is they are the one right? They are the one in their family to hold it all together. They are the one that everybody relies on. They are the get shit done type. They are the I'll figure it out and handle it, right? They are the one that's going to rise to the occasion. But there's a cost that comes with that, you know? And I'm seeing people recognize that they are at capacity, you know, that they are sick of prioritizing everything and everyone and everything else while they are suffering in silence, really trying to convince not only everybody else, but even themselves at times that they are okay, that they got it, they're just gonna like
yeah.
buck up, you know, and keep going. So I'm seeing a lot of that these days. I'm seeing a lot of like realization that I can't keep going like this, that this doesn't work, that the attempt to outrun the pain is really causing them greater pain, you know, and they're breaking down and their mental health is, you know, it's starting to creep up. Cause that's the one thing too, Tiffany, you know, and you know this because you see it with your clients, I'm sure too. When we try to pretend and we go on this crusade to act as if and tuck everything in, it's going to ooze in different ways, right? It's going to come out. So whether that be physical health starts now to really take a toll or whatever, right? Your body's going to let you know at some point, like, hey, this is not sustainable.
Right.
And that's what I'm seeing really now is that people are really coming to these points of, I can't keep doing it the way that I was doing it. So I think it's like survival at a peak that we as humans are just not meant to keep going at this
It's
same
not
pace.
sustainable. It's just not sustainable. Yeah, I totally agree with you. I totally see that. I totally see
Yeah,
that. I'm seeing it with my clients. I think the other I in seeing clients trying to hold on and do things themselves and bear it just a little bit longer, they're hitting rock bottom,
totally.
and they're not realizing that that rock bottom is not even the rock bottom. Like, it's
Right,
low, but
right.
things can and will get worse unless they're addressed. And I think that's for anything. It's for
Yeah,
anything. Yeah. Like,
for sure,
you can only drive your car so many miles. You can only
percent.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And so I'm seeing a lot of that happen. The other thing that I'm seeing, I'm actually seeing it in myself personally. And because my clients are doing it, I'm doing the same thing.
Yeah,
Well, I'm trying to keep everyone happy. And you and I touched on this a little bit before we started this conversation. And it's just around sometimes you have to distance yourself from some different things that you're used to doing. And I wanted to know if you could just like speak to that a little bit. I'll just give I'll give you an assist on this one.
yeah,
I've found this past year that I have kind of retreated from my life, retreated from my friends in some ways because there's some work that I need to get done
yeah,
that I just can't get done in my usual surroundings. And of course, I
totally.
can't just, in this case, right? Many people can't just up and leave their homes and move to another state or move to another city. But there are certain ways that we can set boundaries to make as many changes to our lives so that we can have a different outcome as possible.
Sure.
And so I wonder, like, what it's been like for you. Where have you gotten to that made you say, okay, I got to do something different? I'm not talking about starting the work. We know the
Yeah,
business is up and running, you're working with your clients, but your own personal continuum of work. Tell me a little bit
yeah.
about that.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that is always happening. I would say it's an active conversation and daily practice, right? Where I really check in with myself and I'm always sort of like looking at what's working, what's not working, and what do I need to be doing different. I'm like regularly checking in with that. And so, like a lot of sacrifice, I would say, in this season of my life. And similar to what you shared, like there's a lot that often has to be given up to be
Mhm.
able to accomplish or do or experience other things. And so I'm constantly looking at my distractions. What are they? How much time are they taking up? And how can I sort of schedule them so that I'm able to do other things and then, like kind of have like whatever downtime. But, I would say what's coming up for me in particular around this season, midlife is a whole journey, and what I'm discovering about where I am is that a lot of what I'm experiencing and going through for the last couple of years is very much part of the midlife era. And I describe it, and it's impacted me in such a way in the last couple of years that I, am now changing my coaching program to emphasize on, and focus on women in midlife because it really is a reckoning, and everything that I thought I knew about myself and everything that I was experiencing, be it like habits, hobbies, feelings, beliefs, ways I spent my time, friendships, everything is different in midlife,
Mm,
and you really come to recognize. And for those who, are experiencing it, I was experiencing it without knowing what was happening. But when I realized, I'm like, wow, it's really a homecoming, is how I really feel about it. And to your point, in terms of like time spent with self, so long I really was surrounded by people. And yeah, I loved it. I mean, I love my people. I love spending time with people. But in that, whether it's friends or family or coworkers, I had a hard time accessing my own feelings, my own beliefs, right? Because we're inundated with hearing outside stimulus and what's coming, And this season has really been an intentional decision and like on purpose. Quality time with me. Like, what is it that I really feel? What is it that I really want? And with that, it means saying no to some things, and even things that I still love and still like enjoy, but it's like I have to be able to put some things on hold, to be in this particular season. So I would say, for myself, it's been a lot of boundaries and quality time with me. It's been walks, literally, like as corny as it sounds, like in nature. It's been like quiet mornings, just really honing in on gratitude for my life, and the small moments of, like a cozy warm blanket and
Mhm.
quiet time and
Mhm.
looking at the beautiful trees that, are going through their change right now. And
Yeah.
it's stuff like that, Tiffany. So I would say that for anybody who is like, and I was always go, go, go.
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
so,
yeah.
so this doesn't come natural, and for those who are potentially like the go, go, go in the group, and, I think we know when you start to really get the tug, the pull, the inner voice starts to really get louder and louder around things need to change. It's time for it to be different. You're craving a different pace. And I would invite everybody who listens that if you feel like right now, you may not know what it means, you may not know what you want to do, you just know that something has to change for what it is that you're going through. I would encourage you to be so patient with the discovery process and allow it to really unravel. And when you quiet the external noise and you really start to hear yourself, you're going to know more and more which direction to go in, which is so exciting. That's
It
so like
is.
so juicy when people can.
It is, and what I love about this is that not only in your work as a coach and as a facilitator and as a speaker, but even your work as a psychologist, a school psychologist, I think that people don't realize that specifically these types of positions, we really have to do the work. We really have to slow down. We really have to take these moments to rest because we're serving others at such a high level so frequently, and it is our go-to. We
Totally.
naturally jump into
Yeah.
that position that we have to be really, really intentional um,
To-
about taking the time that we need.
yeah.
I have a friend of mine who has a thriving career, and what I love about her is I will say, "Hey, can we do such and such?" Like, "Let's do such and such." And she'll say, "No, I'm doing this weekend." And I'm like, "Got it." And it's a reminder to me that I get to say no and set boundaries.
Yeah.
Yeah, because what happens is, sometimes other people give you permission. Sometimes the permission that you're unwilling to give yourself, someone else will give you the permission.
Yeah.
Recently, I said that to her. I was like, "Hey, I want you to do X, Y, and Z." And she was like, "No, I'm busy on the weekends." Got it. And that is the
Yeah.
reminder that I get to say to people, "Yeah, no, I'm not doing it." There's some things I'm just not doing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And that's hard at first.
Mhm.
Really,
Mhm.
it's really, really hard because especially as, the person who is the go-to and all, that's not only shocking for everybody else, right? But it leaves I remember feeling a certain way, like I felt selfish, I felt like mean, I felt cold, but I was like, but I don't want to do it, and I had to start to recognize that in this idea of like self-preservation,
Yes.
even desire, it's like, do I wanna do it? And if it's the answer is no, or if I feel like, "Oh, I would love to do it, but I'm just, like, coming off of a 2-week run of doing so many things, and I just don't have it in me, or I need the rest," or whatever the story is, that willingness to give yourself the permission, and I say this to clients because clients experience a lot of struggle around this,
Mhm.
especially clients who identify as, like, people pleasers who
Yeah.
will say yes and do all the things. I talk to them about this idea that is your relationship so fragile with this person that you can't say no? you're not going to do this thing on the
Right.
weekend,
Ooh,
right? Like our
good.
relationship
Ooh, that's good.
shouldn't be if they shouldn't be so fragile that it can't withstand the no.
Yeah.
You know, like when your relationships are solid, the person just, understands or respects, or they may wish you were going to be there because they love you and they want you to be there, right? They know the party will be better if you're there,
Mhm.
if you're not. That's out of pure love. But it shouldn't be so fragile that we can't say no. When clients start to see it in that way, I've had them come back to be like, guess what I did this weekend? And instead of it being a like, oh, they went to the thing or they did all the entertaining, they're like, I had a me day and it felt
Yes.
so good. And then like their spouse or their partner or their children ends up actually like feeling so much better because they had that, right? Because now they're showing up differently. So it's something also to think about. Like, are our relationships so fragile that we can't say no? Or is that just us creating it in our head that it's like we have to be all the things for everyone?
Right.
And I think people like you get pleasantly surprised that like I could say no
I
and
can say
everybody's fine.
no. I can say no. It's not a big
Absolutely.
deal. But I really love
Exactly.
that. I really love reframing it as is your relationship that fragile that you can't say no? I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It really is like a good tool to check in. And
Yeah.
usually I'm like, no, this is my stuff. Like they're fine.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Tell us what is next for intentional healing and wellness. What's next for you? What's next for the business?
So good. What's next? So okay, I shared a bit about, the midlife piece, and I've been really for the last couple of years, I would say since like 2023, taking a real interest in it because I know it's where I am. And I know that it is what caused a lot of obstacle for me. And, behind the scenes have been on my own journey around it and all the things. And so I decided Thrive traditionally was my coaching program that really supported people to have the pendulum shift from survival and all of the ways in which they were sort of sabotaging themselves and, not living their life the way that they want to be
Mhm.
to like a Thrive season. But what I decided to do is emphasize midlife. And so what's next for me is that in January, I will be opening the doors. Well, they'll be opening in December for Thrive with an emphasis on midlife, focusing on women, specializing in bringing them through this process of really like returning home to themselves for a period of time together where we can look at well, where are they now and where do they want to go? Because often what I'm discovering midlife to be is a real opportunity to check in because usually the life we build for ourselves, we get to midlife and we're like, I don't want this anymore. Like the stuff that once mattered, the accomplishments, the goals, the pace that we kept, it's usually there's a big shift. And so that's coming in New Year, which I'm really, really
Exciting.
excited about. Yeah. I am also releasing my first book in 2026, and that's scheduled to come in the second quarter of the year. So I'm really excited and have been working really hard to, have that be like its passion project. And it's something I always wanted. So that's coming. And I've been in between Brooklyn and New Jersey. Brooklyn is home, and New Jersey has provided me with the zen and the nature and the slow down. And so I've been thinking a lot about what that means in terms of a next chapter for myself. So I'm still like in the, figuring out phase. But continuation with schools in terms of I now go into school communities and provide trainings to students, staff, and parents, empowering workshops, social emotional skills, leadership development, mental health, how to basically optimize during this challenging time. So that work will continue. I love like doing the corporate work in
Mhm.
terms of trainings and, stress management. So that's a bit about like what's happening next, I would say and just enjoying all of it. I want to just, I'm been very, very, very in tune to little moments, So, like I said, like cold evenings with like a warm blanket and a book.
So good.
So good. And I never thought that, I would be in this space of like feeling so much joy and fulfillment from such small things. But that's really where I am. And I'm just looking forward to it continuing and, being able to get together like this, but have create conversations with people, spend quality time, plan some fun things out. And that's where I am, what's going on. Excited.
I love that. I love that. And I think you provided like some clarity for me because I was wondering, when am I going to have you back on? When am I going to have you back on? But we definitely have to have you back when the book comes out because we want to know all about it. And I can't wait for that conversation. I know that's going to be good.
Excited.
So but for right now, thank you. Thank you so much for spending this time with me.
Thank you.
Thank you for always being the exceptional coach and friend that you are. And I'm so
Thank
glad that my audience, got an opportunity to learn a little bit about you. And
Yeah,
I can't wait to
thank
see. I
you.
can't wait to.
Thank you. Thank you, Tiffany. I'm honored. I'm grateful. I'm excited. I've been watching what you are up to. I'm looking forward to, I'm a fan and I'm looking forward to seeing, what unfolds and where you go. I was excited just to find out recently too that you're in a new chapter and being, in New Jersey and starting things and a different pace. And yeah, and I truly believe that it's going to pave way to things that in this particular moment maybe you don't even have access to, because I do believe that we have these seasons and these eras and these different chapters that we go through. So I'm really, really excited and I'm staying tuned. I would love to have you in the vulnerability spot, which
Yes,
is my podcast.
definitely.
I
I
definitely
got to
am.
get there. Yes.
Yeah, it's undergoing some changes, but I'm excited for like where it's going and what's coming. And so we will absolutely stay tuned. And to your listeners, thanks for, having me in your world for today. I'm looking forward to, being with you again. And I always say on my platform, like to be continued, because I think juicy conversations like this always get to continue.
Absolutely, they do. And this one will continue. Thank you, The Rebuild. Thank you for joining us. I can't wait to see you all again. Again, this is the lovely Andrea Mancuso of Intentional Healing and Wellness. I'm going to link her bio, I'm going to link her Instagram, all of her social media below
Thank
so
you.
that you can go and check her out. Be sure to like and comment and subscribe. But most importantly, be sure to share this really vulnerable conversation with someone who you care about, someone who needs to hear the words that will inspire them. Thanks again, everybody. Bye.